taken. And I even just checked the human cloud. The human
Uh-huh.
cloud is taken up as well. What are the odds of that?
It's timing, like we say, right?
Oh, you're right.
Everybody, it's the perfect timing. It's every now and then. I think it's every 4 years. And I was just having a talk with someone the other day about this, and I think it's every 4 years, but my math could be off, and it just could be my personal life. I think that's when everything changes, right?
Right.
And so maybe you're every 4 years, maybe this 4 year stint you don't lead to a breakthrough, but it does lead you somewhere. You know what I mean? And I believe that's why like we do presidents every 4 years, and everything I think revolves on that kind of a cycle. I like that number 4 too, personally. But I do
The number
with you,
4?
man.
Oh,
Yeah, I like that.
the
I like
cycles.
that number. I do. I love it. And then like for my brain, you know how into sports I am, right? And so like it's easier for me to tell time through a first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. What was that sound?
Right. Oh, I just hit the mic trying to adjust it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, but that's interesting. That's kind of just like built into us, isn't it? These cycles,
Oh, yeah.
like a yearly cycle, a quarter cycle, the 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a trip. But I mean, I read this quote somewhere, but I was so brilliant, I had to write it down. What do you think about this? Because you said it's kind of like the timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so here's the quotes. And with that said, so the quote is, "The world has changed faster than people have." Now, what do you think about that when it comes to the timing, the era of the now? The world has changed faster than we have. And all of a sudden, like we're at 2020, we're in this disarray or even just crazy shit for the past 4 years.
I like this, and I want to go with this. I understand what that is trying to say.
Right.
And it brings me to this. I think about this from time to time as well too. And so just think about this. Go with me here. It's going to be kind of long-winded, but it has everything to do with this.
Definitely paint the picture.
So think about everything that the humans have done in the last, let's just say 120 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
120 years ago, we're walking, we're not turning on lights, there's no internet, we're barely communicating from town to town, right? Travel is life or death, literally. It can take you months to get across the country. Medicine is nowhere near where it is obviously now. That's 1900 to 2020. They can put someone else's heart inside of you and you
Yeah.
can continue living. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, these are every piece of information that was in these libraries now fit into the size of the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
We were walking, and now we're talking about seriously setting up colonies on Mars
Right.
in 120 years. Do you not think that the opposite has happened? Have we moved too fast? Like, think about what happened the previous 1,000 years. It didn't add up to what happened in this 120 years.
Yeah. Or even the last 10 years or 20 years.
Bro, I think about that all the time. I'm like, no, that's such a small slither of time. Think about what we've done in 20 years. And then compare that to 3,000 years prior. Nothing.
Yeah.
Are we progressing too fast? Maybe.
Or were we just slow from the get-go, and now it's like somebody or
That's
the world
possible.
is like, yo, we need to catch up because we're
play
200
catch up.
years behind. So what are we going to do? Well, I guess we're going to shake shit up and just shake the world, and you have to go along for this ride whether you like it or not.
So, using what you just said, your quote is on the money. I don't know that our human emotions have evolved fast enough for that speed up.
Yes, and that's what I was going to dive into as well, because are we ready for the times to change? Like, so what do we have to do to prepare? If the world is moving at this accelerated pace and we're kind of just stuck in the mud with our old ways, an old way of doing things, how do we progress forward and kind of go with the times, but also think about the future. What do we need to do? So this is going to be slightly two-sided.
Okay.
I'm not into politics, but one is like, well, I think we need to gain knowledge first, right? We need to
Yes.
like excel our brains. We need to think higher, elevate our consciousness, and go from there. Whether it's meditating, reading more books, whatever it is, we need to dive into other shit. Or if we're not doing that, which most people are not, somebody's like, well, I have to force this upon you somehow to make your brain think harder and pop out your fucking skull to do this. So what are we gonna
Yes.
do? Hey, let's have a businessman who's no background in politics as president to shake the shit out of your brain, because what's gonna
Yes.
happen? You're gonna grow and you can progress from it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think
I
that has any
I
correlation?
love that. I think it has correlation because that also fades into other conversations I've had around race, right?
Hmm.
With that man. So I remember 2016 when he was elected, right? I don't remember who was saying it. I was listening to another podcast at the time. And somebody
Right.
was like, no, this is great if you're black. And they were like, what? What are you talking about? And he was like, you finally are gonna get to see how a lot of people really are, right?
Right.
Because he came in and he embraced, I don't want to say racism, but he made it like, it's okay to be yourself. And if yourself is your racist self, you put that on display. If yourself is super greedy, you started to put that on display, right? Because this dude is like Teflon. Like nothing can stop Donald Trump. Nothing.
Right.
There's no headlines that could come out to where I'm like, ooh, shit, that's the one that's going to do him in. And so I think he's empowered people to be who they really are. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it opens things up. So like I've learned more about people that I consider my friends during these last 4 years than I have otherwise. And not good or bad, not you support him or you don't support him. I don't really give a shit about that. But
what do
like,
you do? Yeah, you're meeting friends with their whole, their heads pretty much cracked open with the 2020, especially Donald Trump being president for 3.5 years now.
Yes.
What happens then? And so you're meeting those people, and it's like, oh my God. It's like, what happens when you get, punched in the face for the first time?
Yes.
How do you react?
Yes. Everyone's not handling it, or maybe they are. And maybe everyone is handling it the same. It's just we're seeing people differently than who we pictured them as before.
And I love it, honestly.
And I think possibly, and I like it too because I try not to judge people in my life, right? I used to judge people heavily, right? And at the time, the odd narcissistic fucking thing about it is I would do this while telling myself I'm not judging people. You know what I mean? But deep down, I was like, oh, they're like this. And then I'm like, I don't really know. So I kind of just quit on people, right? I didn't analyze them. I don't really want to know too much. If you are who you are, and that's great, as long as it doesn't affect me. But it's so open now, right? That like you're getting presented with people. And I had this idea of who a lot of people were. And it's changing now because they're speaking out their truths more. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's like, but here's my dilemma, right? Is accepting that for who they are, right? Even if they've shown me to be someone that like, I don't necessarily agree with their way of thinking, or the shock of finding out who some of these people are is making me feel a certain way. You know what I mean? And I know it's judgment, but right. I can't get away from it. Like, sometimes you can't unsee things. You know what I'm saying? And right. It's like, I want to unsee it, but I can't. I know how you feel because you keep showing me. And so I'm supposed to act like I don't know that. What do I do? You know what I mean?
Right. See, my perception on that is I take it for a grain of salt, especially since the world just grabbed everybody by the shoulders and shook them. So it's almost the initial reaction people are biting off. It's like, what do you know? So I'm giving people the benefit of the doubt in the sense of they're not used to this. So how do you react then forward?
Yes.
And that is, it's just fascinating because it's just comes back to the human mind and what we've been so comfortable all years, the new norm.
Yeah.
This is so differently, this whole culture now, and the world's going to be so different because why? We have to progress forward to catch up to technology, to find out who we truly are as humans and all this other shit, but it all ties together. And so that's why, like, I kind of leave judgment out of it, because it's like we're all like lost little kids at heart still, and we don't know what we are or what this is all about. We guess, but then, so if somebody, gets mad over a quick fight, it's like, oh, that's your initial reaction. But then as time goes on and they're 40 and like, yeah, I used to do dumb shit when I was 18. It's like you kind of grow and you learn. So so a good thing is like, how do we get that to not last 30 years where you look back and like, how do I learn and grow? Bitch, how can we do this within 5 years?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Are we undervaluing judging? Because when you say we leave judgment out of it, it's go for a minute and clarify that, because everything else in life we really base on judgment, right? We make judgment calls on everything that is non-human, and it's seen as a I don't know, a practical way of doing life, right? That's a judgment call. This is probably gonna be better than this. This is probably gonna be better than that. The risk on this is that. Should we do humans as commodities as well?
Oh, that's like interesting.
Maybe my judgment of this person is that they don't line up with what my final goal is, right? So instead of me trying to change them or anything like that, perhaps I should just make a judgment call to not get involved, or to get involved, or any of that. I don't know where the example's not great, but do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, but let me answer that with a question, because it's the only possible way we can gain a little clarity, at least from my perspective. Mm-hmm. So if I think life is one big game, and we can fill in that blank with any other word that we choose. But the question is like, so when we don't know what we are or what we're doing in this world, life, earth, whatever you want to put it, universe, why do we do the things that we do? And why do we live the way we live?
Okay.
So as in, like, if we don't know what any of these things are, what spawns my thinking from then on to make my judgment calls for myself or other people? If we don't know who we are or what we do or what we're capable of or what any of this truly is, right?
Yes.
Then what are we really talking or thinking about? Because then, so I don't know where judgment comes from in there, besides just a nail in the wall that happens to skip a beat. So my philosophy is we have to just get in tune first, start from the ground zero, where who the fuck are we? How do we think? Where does our mind go from here? And then we can create words of like, well, does it benefit me? You know what I mean? Why do we do what we do? But
let's throw this question out there, because this is going to be the most important question that we ever deal with, but like in this forum. And it's a question that we're never going to answer. And that's going to sound crazy, but I'm throwing it out there. We know we're never going to answer it, but it's the basis for all of this, right?
Definitely.
Backstory. Me and you've been friends for years.
Yeah.
We've had these conversations for years. And I still don't think we have the answer to this question, and maybe the answer changes. But my question is, how do you know who you are? So like for you, not for your advice to people, how do you know who you are?
Right. It's a great question.
Yeah,
and it's,
man.
and it ties into the era, honestly. I was taking notes the other day just because I mind jam with myself, and I was taking notes, and it's just like, am I following different eras or seasons in my own life, and then I adapt to them? So when I'm little, living in New York City, am I adapting with the times? Yes. Then I moved to Indiana and I adapted with the times, and all of a sudden, like, it's more street life. And then I moved to Oregon. Everybody's fucking nice as shit over here. It's like,
Yeah.
well, then what am I gonna do? And all of a sudden, like, I hit a wall, and I'm like, well, I have to be a different person. And so it's almost through these experiences I have to figure out who I am. But then, I mean, it's a double-sided coin. I can first, one, be whoever the fuck I want to be and just say, this is it. I'm going to be this outspoken, I don't give two fucks. I'm going to say what's on my mind, but hopefully do the right thing internally and externally. So it's definitely a guessing game. But I think with this whole era, the whole world shifting as well, getting, shaking the shit out of us, it's like, who are we going to be next? And that's what I'm like kind of fascinated about it, because I think that the possibilities are endless. If we are here now thinking like this, doing the things here, it's like, and we're young as fuck, early 30s,
man.
Jesus.
And just for context for the listeners, we've been having this conversation since the point where we were saying we're young as shit, early 20s. There's 10 years into this conversation at least. So my question to you, I like it changes with the seasons, right? How do we get to a place where we can see the change before it has to happen? Does that make sense? So like, I feel like as children, we grow up and we adapt through situations because you have no control over it, right? Leaving New York City, you had no control over.
Right.
You were forced to adapt to Indiana. How, as adults, can we not predict what's coming, but like, is there certain kind of eyes that we have to look out to see what's like, okay, I see this and I'm going to be ready for it, right? Not I'm going to adjust when the world forces me to adjust.
Right. I would say you'd have to be, it's going to be one of those catch-22 things where you have to be ready to be open, and that's it. You just have to have an open mind with what's going to happen next. That way you can move like water and be fluid around it or through it, whichever way you want to go. But you can't, like, because the stigma in my head when we think about the future, quote, preparing for it, that can have an undertone of fearfulness for some people, and that could be scary, the unknown itself. So how do we prepare for the unknown? Essentially, well, just be open-minded, create a certain solid foundation internally to where what's next, whatever happens next is not going to affect you. Okay. But then again, if it does, then that's what brought us here. I'm in Oregon right now, right? So it's a catch-22.
And the crazy thing is, like, it leads us. There's something beautiful about being a child, right?
Right.
Because ideally, like, if you can't control a situation, it's built in that you're not at fault, right? So like, there's something freeing in living that way, right? I was forced into this situation, so as almost no matter what the outcome is, you're successful at it, right? So say you're put into a fucked up situation and you just simply survive. No one's gonna look at you like a loser. No matter where you're at when you come out on the other side, you could still be at the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. But based on your circumstance, like, everything is kind of judged differently when you're a child.
That is correct.
And it's like,
that is interesting.
Do we have knowledge of, and I think it changes for most men. Like, I always say that, like, men mature differently than women do, right?
Right.
And I think maturity is nothing but awareness, right? When you start to have self-awareness, that's when you can start to be more mature, because your self-awareness will lead to you being a little more mature, right? And that happens differently for people, right?
Yes. Now let me ask you this: when do you become responsible for your own life? So where's that breakout point from the child to adult, or a child to you becoming self-aware? Now, should children be more self-aware at an early age? And hence, are they more responsible for the way they live their life?
I believe children are self-aware.
Hmm.
I believe self-awareness is a honest space, right?
Right.
It's a pure space, and I think you only get it twice. When you mature into a man and when you're born as a child. Because most of the time, children understand the things that we as adults think we can't make them understand, right? I'll use a personal reference. Me and my kid's mom was together for almost 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so probably the last year and a half, 2 years of that situation, we were pretty much just roommates, right? And so when we finally had the conversation of this kind of has to end, I gotta go, right? It's time for me to go on and move into my own space, and we've got to end this thing because there's no romance here. We have a great partnership when it comes to raising these kids, but like, there's no romance here.
Mm-hmm.
It took us a month to figure out how to talk to the kids about this, right? The actual conversation with the kids were super easy because they already could tell.
Right. Sponges.
They're sponges. And because they adapt to everything, they can innately tell when something is changed, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. And so as children, we give them the credit of innocence, right? But children manipulate parents. It happens all the time. I have a 1-year-old that if she wants another snack, she'll walk up and hug and kiss daddy and give him the smile. It's manipulation, right? It is an awareness. It is an awareness that I can change this situation in my favor. So I believe that kids have it. And I believe that they just don't know what this is, but they have it naturally.
I was about to ask you, is that a primitive trait or is that learned?
I think it's primitive, bro. And here's why I think it's primitive. Because of all the things that happen in the wild, right? When animals go to hunt, when zebras change their stripes, when all these things that happen in the wild. So in the wild, when it's mating season, right? The colors of some animals change. They start to walk around differently, right? Because they have to attract a mate. So they are doing something they wouldn't normally do because of the situation. To me, that we would be idiots to believe that these things happen, but us as humans don't, right?
Yeah.
You can raise 30 pit bulls and you feed them by hand every day. You walk out and it's a feeding frenzy and they run up and they won't do what? They will never bite you. Why is that? You feed them. You're the one that feeds them. Let a stranger walk through that yard. They're ready to attack and kill. The situation is different. They don't attack you. It's not because that's it. If they weren't aware, they would just be biting every human that came their way. But the old saying goes, what? You don't bite the hand that feeds you. Mm-hmm. I think it's primitive, man. I think it's just in. It's just in there. I think
you're right.
And I don't think kids know how to turn it on and turn it off. That's why I think theirs is there. It's powerful, but it's only really powerful because maybe they don't have the maturity to understand what's happening. You know what I mean? So it's a pure natural thing. But you know what? You hold some responsibility too. Because you're doing this.
Yeah. It's interesting because, where does the innocence get cut off from adults as well? Because I think we have a stigma based on adults. We're like, no, you're not a child anymore. You need to do this or act like this. And that's like, it's like, well, we're still inbred with our animal instincts, and depending how you're raised or what environment or culture you're surrounded in will dictate perhaps the next, avenue you take in life.
Yeah, and then the next question is, should it?
I guess it doesn't matter. It will, whether you like it or not. But if it should, then what do we need to do? Do we need to nurture more, or let nature take its course earlier?
See, I lean towards let nature take its course earlier, but I don't have any mind-blowing explanation as to why it should be that, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
it's not like you're gonna kick your 10-year-old out in the streets, be like, "Yo, bro,
exactly.
grow up, baby, let's
Yeah.
go."
Yo, man, figure it out. What do we do? You know?
Yo, get a job. Legal age is 6. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
4 years
It doesn't
behind.
happen that way. And,
It
and
doesn't, but should it?
man. So funny thing. So I've been watching. So we're electing. Well, we're not. We're actually not a part of this process at all. So the president nominated for someone for the Supreme Court, and this goes along with exactly what we were just talking about, right?
Mhm.
So in this stupid fucking process, listen to this process, right? So if they nominate a judge for the Supreme Court, the judge has to go and sit before the Senate, and every senator is allotted 30 minutes to question this judge, right?
Okay.
It's the stupidest fucking waste of time ever. You want to know why? Because at the end of this thing, it's just a vote. And basically, if the Republicans brought her to the table, they have more Senate seats. It's already going to happen, right? But anyways, so I've been watching these because I'm just interested in like, what kind of questions are we asking and why? I'm more interested in, I'll be honest, like my sports is pretty much done, right? So I'm more interested in the differences between the two sides going at this lady. And so she said something to me that was interesting. She calls herself as a judge, and when it comes to the Constitution, she's an originalist, right? Meaning she takes the text of the Constitution to be law. It isn't to be altered, changed, or any of that. So as a judge, that's how she's gonna rule, right?
Okay.
And so it made me think about that. And I keep asking myself, should it be? Because this shit was written 300 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Like, bro, that's like, think about that. Should this still be taken for its solely by its word? Let's remember at the time this was written, people that looked like me and you were considered 3/4 of a man.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And then let's take into the fact that like at the time this was written, there was none of the technologies that we have today that have absolutely changed the world. So why should everything else change except this doctrine that was written 300 fucking years ago? Like, that's insane to me. They were wearing wigs at the time.
They were the men. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's like, lady, you said you're an originalist. You're aware that at the time that this document was written, you would not be welcome at the State House, woman. You did not have a vote, woman.
Yeah.
And you think those guys got it right? I can't understand that. And so that's like, so when you say like, you know, should it be? Societies teaches us it's this, and that. How should that evolve? And should it evolve? Because I fully believe that like, yo, these things have to update. Like we're still living under rules set forth by people that wore wigs and said women they can't vote, bro. They couldn't go to the State House. It's not a place for women.
Yeah, doesn't sound original at all to me. It sounds like she wants to appeal to the white male top leaders of the world who are controlling at least that demographics and just get her foot in the door.
Listen, I listened to this lady talk for 2 days, right? Mm-hmm. She sounds very logical, very rational as well, right? She doesn't sound like an idiot. She doesn't sound to me like she's trying to sound smarter than she is. She seems very rational. And so my point, if I was a Democrat on this board, I would have one question for her. Donald Trump came and sat down in your living room to vet you to see if you would be good, right? In your living room was you, your husband, and your children, 2 of which are black, that you had adopted. He asked you a question and you answered, and y'all went back and forth, and he left your house saying she's the one. I need to know the context of the conversation that happened in the house. And what did you tell him? Because who you're appearing to be right now doesn't match up with anything that he could actually want, right? Because he's the president that has done so many unconstitutional things. Why the fuck would he pick you, who you say you're an originalist?
I don't know.
Somebody's winning something, and I don't know what it is.
He probably set this different bar standard, and she's like, well, if I go back to the basics, maybe I can go back to this original thinking idea, because the whole radical movement of the world right now is this Donald Trump era. And it's like, well, if I can go back to the basics, perhaps I can return things back to some normancy. And maybe that's as far as her thinking goes.
It's possible. It's, again, it was one of those things that saying what you said about like the should it led me to, I was just thinking that shit about this. I was sitting there like, should we really be listening to what they say by the text? And by the way, they talked weird back then. That shit reads weird now. You would not talk like that because things changed. It changed. Simple as that. Everything else is expected to change in this world. Everything. Except that one old weird document. And I find that interesting. And I think the reason that they don't want that one old weird document to change is because written in that document was nothing but advantages for the white man. And I believe there are a few of those people left that's all they have to hold on to. Because maybe they didn't evolve as they should have.
Oh, I think you're right. I think that's what it comes down to.
That's just the way I feel about it, man.
But then I would have loved to hear the story of her saying original idea, originality, and proposing a new set to revise it.
Yes.
Now that would have blown me out of the way. Like, oh, great, let's hear it, because we have to change.
Or if anyone just said, hey guys, do you guys think that maybe we should put together like a commission to just review it and update it? Like let's just have a commission, a bipartisan commission. People from your side, people from our side kind of look at this thing and say, there's a few things in here that we can all agree, well, that kind of doesn't play anymore. You know what I mean? And then there's some things that's like, well, that's kind of still relevant and we need to keep this there. Like the freedom of speech. That whole article is so weird now because it never took into account that communication would blow up into this major thing, right? Yeah. At the time, there's books and there's newspapers. Now there's Twitter. Does Donald have freedom of speech on Twitter?
Yeah.
What's the Constitution say about that? I don't know. I feel like maybe he shouldn't tweet some of the things that he is, but then again, I feel like maybe that the First Amendment gives him the right to.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, would we like our president to tweet every day? And honestly, I wouldn't mind hearing from the president from inside, some inside trader information type thing. For the people, by the people. Give us the 411 real quick. But then again, if you're just spitting on your own off emotion bias and ideologies, then that's a different story.
Well, what if it's found out that he's giving us lies?
Oh,
is he still protected by the First Amendment? Because by the text, he is.
Oh yeah, by the text, he is. He's in his full right and shit.
But should he be held to some higher responsibility of truth? Like, fam, you're responsible for a lot right now.
One would think. One would think
gosh.
so.
And I think this is why I don't really like. I've been more interested in politics lately, just because I like the knowledge of it. I'm learning a lot of things I didn't know, and it's making some things that's happened in the past make more sense to me. But like, it's a fucking game, bro. They are playing. Like, they are playing. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I think it's one big game. And before we we talked before this when I brought up, like, I think Donald Trump's this wild card to kind of shake shit up to see what the people are tolerable enough. What can they get away with? Where's our mindset? Where's our socialism at? How do we act as people in these times when you throw a curveball at us? And it just kind of shows our weakest spots. Where can the floodgates be, drawn in from? And I think that's where it's just one big social experiment. I think Donald Trump is.
I can see that. I can see it, and it's been tiring. You know what I mean? That's the word I like, because like a lot of times I will follow into these stories, right? I'll read something on Twitter, because, by the way, my Twitter has been phenomenal lately. I went through and I cleaned out anything that I didn't value. So literally, Twitter might be the only one left where the algorithm doesn't play you. You can still kind of control. So oftentimes when I'm on there, I do find myself actually reading into tweets that I see that are interesting, because it leads me down of, I want to know what is this? Well, what bill is that?
Yes.
Well, what are they talking about? Oh shit, I didn't know them niggas lied like that on. You can't lie to the Senate, can you? You know what I mean? It's just like,
so on Twitter, do you catch what's on trending most often than not?
no, I don't. I have to actually go to the page that shows me what's trending, just because. Now, every now and then I do, because 60% of what I follow is sports related, right?
Right.
And people tweet sports. So yes, it will be what's trending, but a lot of the times it's literally my
politics?
days are exactly the same over. My Twitter days read the same pretty much every day, right? Different tweets, same subjects. Baseball, basketball, politics get mixed into there, and podcast.
Right.
And whatever my favorite podcasters, athletes, or sports journalists are talking about. But that's it. Each tweet that I read in a day can be directly tied back to, I follow this person with a purpose, and that's how I got down this weird Aerosmith rabbit hole, right? Like my favorite
Right.
baseball writer wrote about, it's just little stupid shit like that. But like, I do enjoy it for that reason though. But I don't ever see like yesterday, Cardi B's titties were out.
I heard about that.
I didn't see it until I actually went to like what's trending. When I get through my own timeline, then I'll go see what's trending. That shit, her titties had been on Twitter for hours. No one that I knew was talking about it, right? Like, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, it's kind of a big deal. I mean, it's not in the grand scheme of things, but like for this social world thing, I was like, damn, that's crazy. Then I look at the top tweet and it says like 8 hours ago, and I was like, damn, okay, I didn't see this, but that's funny. On to the next thing. Oh, Ariana Grande's got a new album. Cool. On to the next thing. You know what I mean? It's
right.
I do like Twitter because it's more on demand for me. You know what I mean? I've tried to do that with my Instagram and my Facebook. It never works. They just start to show me things that they like. It never works. I'll still get 3 or 4 posts in and it's like, wait, what? I don't follow them. Where did this even come from? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you don't use Twitter that much, do you?
No, maybe once a week, if that.
Yeah. See, if I were to look at my screen time, I'm probably on Twitter more than any other social network.
Yeah, I still don't get it. I don't get how do you use it. I get Instagram, post some pictures and tell a little story. Facebook, you just fuck spew some shit out. And then Twitter, I'm like, huh? What? Who? Where?
Yeah, it's I think I started my Twitter account in 2011. So I'm almost like 10 years in on this thing. You know what I mean? So I know it's a comfort level with me. I had Twitter before I had Instagram. So
And when did Twitter come out? Because was it around that time or before?
I would say 2009-ish, right?
Still fresh and new then.
And I learned about Twitter through sports, which is why I think I lump the two together. You know what I mean? is because like I noticed, I remember it. I used to watch this show on ESPN called Cold Pizza. It's now called First Take, but like it used to be called Cold Pizza. And they were the first ones to put the Twitter bird and their handle on there, right? And we're saying things like, follow me on Twitter. Excuse me. And I was like, what the fuck is Twitter? But I see it every day. So then I set up a Twitter account and it was a ton of athletes. So at the time, this was the first time that I had quote unquote direct access to athletes, right? Following them on Facebook wasn't a thing because Facebook pages wasn't around yet. And there's no Instagram, right? So an athlete can literally tweet at Dairy Queen right now, which is not information anybody needs to know, but you have that level of knowing what some of your favorite athletes are doing, you know, training number 2, hitting training today, this and that. And that was the first venue in which I had that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, no, this is LeBron James tweeting. This is such and such. This is them. It's almost like they're texting me.
Right. And that makes sense there. Because I was like, well, why not Facebook? And then Facebook was like rolled out to college campuses first. But then the idea of speaking to celebrities, it's like, well, shit, they jumped on this full force. And that's kind of intriguing.
I jumped into it less about speaking to celebrities, more about piquing my curiosity on like what it takes to be an athlete, right? Like, do you know I don't know what a baseball player does all day.
Right.
We just see them when it's game time. But maybe he's up at 6 a.m. Why? Breakfast, training, stretch, like just little things like that. And again, none of it wasn't always that organized, and it never is. You learn things about them that otherwise you may not learn. But Twitter started to become the spot that athletes would make announcements at too. So athletes started getting into this game of, I can break my own news and then I control the narrative, right?
Right. So
free agents were announcing where they were going to go play on their Twitter accounts. They were doing this and that. Sometimes these athletes would go back and forth on Twitter. Then Twitter used to be cool for going live. Going live, Facebook, Instagram, they all got it from Twitter because Twitter had this service called Periscope. I think it's still around, honestly. I think so, but no one uses it quite like that anymore because Instagram has kind of set it up a little bit better. But like if you wanted to see someone go live, and then it was cool because it's like you're tuning into that person's TV channel. And I would watch this on ESPN. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, oh shit, that's such and such, and they're answering questions and they're doing this. It was more of that. To me, it was more interactive, and that's kind of why I gravitated towards that. What was your first one? Was it Facebook or Instagram for you? The first one that you got like into?
It was Facebook, which I've deleted twice over, I don't know, probably like a 15-year span or something like that.
I've deleted my fucking Facebook 30 times. Jesus.
But it was all about seeing where the college parties were, because there's only 2 colleges and I was at Indiana State, and it was like,
and you had to have the college email to sign up.
Exactly. And they were saying, hey, the party's going to be here this day or that day. And that's why I signed up, because there's the heart of it. And I was trying to meet girls and then it was Facebook for my interacting. I'd use Facebook to find parties, and then MySpace to really like, hey, what's up? Parties going on over here. But I've always been rebellious with Twitter and Instagram came out, and I've joined them both probably like 2 years ago.
I remember when Instagram came out. Ironically enough, the thing for Instagram that I don't know what they wanted to be known for, but what they were actually known for at first were their filters, right? I noticed that girls would post pictures on Facebook using an Instagram filter. So they would take the picture with Instagram, right? Save it to their phone and then only post it in Facebook because they had all the filters you could put on it, and there was nothing else doing that at the time. So I know they wanted to be a social media network, but
Right.
really it was just the cool looking pictures just because of the filters. At the time, I don't even remember it being comments there, right?
Right.
And it's just commenting and liking wasn't something that you done with that kind of stuff back then. And so I never really got into it only because I didn't give a fuck about taking pictures like that. We just don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I had an Instagram because I started to see that people were posting more pictures on Instagram, but this is before Facebook owned Instagram. Instagram continued to give us a chronological order of the algorithm. I believe the algorithm is what ran me away from Facebook. And it's starting to do the same for me for Instagram.
Right. My thing, why is it so intriguing? So we have all these platforms. Well, let's say just the top three, at least that I'm familiar with. So we got Facebook, we got Instagram, Twitter. Twitter, we have like speech, language, word. Instagram used it for pictures. So we have like this kind of like this site, right? And then when we read the words off Twitter, more or less, it's kind of like sound, right?
Yes.
So are we just being attacked by all our emotional senses as a human?
It's possible. And based on what you just said about Twitter, real quick,
Yeah.
I always read tweets in the voice of the person that tweeted it.
Right.
I noticed that one day. If it's a Shaq tweet, I hear Shaq's voice in my head when I'm reading it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So,
and that kind of
has something to do with it.
Yeah, more connection based, even though it could be his PR person writing it, but they say it's not.
No idea. Yep.
I'm just so intrigued and lost based on the fact, besides being social media being addicting and all our, our handheld devices always in front of us 24/7. But so if we had to create another platform, what sense do you think it could touch on that people would be into? So if we have the five senses of, touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste, like those kind of like get close to it, right? And is that our primitive nature? Is that why we're so intrigued and into these platforms? Because we're seeing these vivid pictures. It blows up our eyeballs. And then Twitter kind of the same thing, but with the language in our voices, in our heads.
Yes.
And then Facebook, I think it's more of like, hey, I get to connect with family and share some shit, and that's it. But so we're missing some other senses. What do you think we can attack with that?
Let me say something to preface it, then we'll go into the attack. Something that interesting I thought about when you were talking. So I don't know what senses they are, but I did notice that I treat all of the platforms differently.
Right.
If your Facebook post is longer than 3 lines, I ain't reading that shit. It's too much. I'm not doing that. On Twitter, if I can see that it's a thread, I'm reading every fucking tweet in the thread.
Yeah. Why is that? That's crazy.
I have no fucking clue. I get excited and I'm reading every tweet in the thread. I get more excited to see a threaded tweet. But on Facebook, if that shit is too long, I'm out.
Right. And that's intriguing. So like on Instagram, if you don't see a beautiful picture, but you see words in picture form, is that different?
Oh, good question. I don't know. On Instagram, I'll say it's the same thing. I never know what your caption said.
Right.
Ever. Unless it's in your story. I will pause on a story to read everything you wrote. If you write a big long thing in your story, I will hold my thumb down so I can read that whole fucking thing. But if you were to put a picture with it and post it, I would never read your caption.
You know what's funny? Same here. Now, I believe we have this universal consciousness that we all kind of do roughly the same thing in certain situations, especially these social media platforms. But I'm like, fuck, what is this fucking human code pattern thing that they've tapped into, and we can't rewire it back? And it's just like so fascinating that somebody's just got got our attention like that. But we do special things like that in stories. I'll hold it and pause it too to read it, because like, why is this more important than the post?
I don't know.
Because this shit's about to disappear, and maybe I can't go back to it.
Ooh, it could be that.
You know, the 24 hours. Oh, so it's the fear of missing out, what people call FOMO, you know?
Yeah.
So we kind of have that ability too, where it's just like, we don't want to miss out on shit. That's just interesting.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Fear of missing out. And that's another fucking thing that, whew. And you know, the future talk too, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what do you think sticking with the social media side of it, what do you think that plays a factor in like these kids these days that you grow up with social media? What do you think the fear of missing out, or what social media does to that fear?
Oh, what does social media do to the fear of missing out?
Yeah,
I think we're experiencing things more through our lenses while we sit on a couch rather than physically experiencing it. But does the brain know the difference? And I'm not sure if it does or not. And so, because after that, it's like, well, then it's like, when do you need vitamin D? I don't know. I'm cool. You know what I mean?
Right. All right. Well, listen, let's take a break real quick. I'm gonna pitch one of my other podcasts, and you're gonna go take a piss or something.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back. Right. Perfect. So listen, guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, trust me, the other podcasts that I do are probably nothing near as astute and in-depth in thinking as this, right? I'm into sports. I'm into the Yankees, and I love the NBA. So I have two other podcasts that you could check out wherever you're listening to this podcast at. Look for the NBA Culture Podcast. Also look for Party and Pinstripes Podcast. If you need a favorite place to listen to podcasts, because maybe you're new to this thing, and I was having a conversation the other day and someone told me that, hey, you guys should really start teaching people about podcasts, right? Where they can listen to, how they should be listening to it, etc. You can find this podcast as well as my other podcast on Apple Podcasts. If you have an iPhone, it is natively on your phone and it is free. Just go inside of there, search for Cloud Conversations. You can also listen on Spotify. Same thing, it's free. Now, Spotify does have a premium plan, but that's more for music, right? And so if you want to get the premium plan or whatever, it just doesn't, you don't have to have skips. You can have unlimited skips with your music, but you don't need to do that to listen to a podcast. Same thing. Go into Spotify, search for Cloud Conversations, NBA Culture Podcast, Party and Pinstripes, all of those, you can get it there. If you use SoundCloud, you can also listen to podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and on YouTube. So you have a lot of options to listen to whatever your favorite podcast may be. And it's usually always free. You back?
Free is good.
Free is so good. Okay, and we're back. So back to what you were saying about is it the idea that they're sitting on the couch and watching essentially what they're watching is the highlight reels of their friends, right?
Right.
And so there has to be a part of me wonders like what the effect of that is on them. Because imagine you're a 14-year-old kid, right?
Okay.
And you've known Instagram since you've been of age to know what any of that is, right?
Right.
And on Instagram and on YouTube are all these kids that seem to be having the best time of their lives. They've got millions of views. They're making money doing what they're doing. They're popular. They're at parties. They're at concerts. They're at all of this. Every time you open that app, is that just a constant reminder to them? Fuck, I don't do nothing. I'm not cool. I'm not popular. Damn. Like, you see what I'm saying? So like,
right.
How does that play with them? Because we're lucky. We came from that perfect generation. Like we're the perfect ones, right? Where we had to go through childhood, luckily without that shit.
Right. Let's go 80 babies.
And we was the first ones to get that shit, right? Like,
You already
and
know.
so it's and so like we know what it's like to not be there. It's cool. We understand that life outside what it really is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know that these kids understand, bruh. I think they're judging themselves off of their friends' highlight reels. Like, I don't think they understand that's a highlight reel. Your friend, she just posted all the pictures that she thinks she looks good in.
Right.
She has 10,000 pictures on her phone. She's got 48 posts on Instagram. What does that tell you?
Well, I'm kind of curious why that is the commonality of the talk of Instagram, because I've heard that talk. You know, once you hear Instagram, then you hear that talk about, the reflection of this, people flashing money or going these extravagant vacations. But is it also like Twitter in a sense to where you get to subscribe to who you want to see and what you want to see? Is everyone subscribing to those extravagant things?
I feel like you used to. I think the difference between Twitter and Instagram was designed to be appealing to the eye, period. And Twitter was designed to push out information quickly. At first, they pitched it as a news company, bro.
Huh.
Yes, that's what the little bird, it's just like a little carrier pigeon that you would send news and information. It was designed that way. Instagram was designed to appeal visually, right?
Right.
And so I don't like to keep talking about the algorithm because I feel like the more I say that, it makes me sound like conspiracy theorist, right? But you used to be able to control what was in your feed. My challenge to anyone that listens to this, it can be including you, go through your Instagram for 1 week and see if you can control what you see. Because they have found new ways with the algorithm to take you into the place that most of the eyeballs are already at. Right? And it ends up being the place that has the most extravagance or the most this or the most. It's the guy talking super crazy about LeBron. It's the big time conspiracy theorist. It's the Donald Trump said this about this. It's never just, it was an average day.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because if I go click on my following right now, how many people I'm following, which is 982 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it drops it down to 2 categories. My least interacting with, and it shows 50 people. My most shown in my feed, 50 people. And I noticed this today, and I'm like, if I'm following these people, I kind of want to see a little bit of everybody, of all 900 plus people. Why are you just showing the top 50 people?
Yeah. Now, and the crazy thing is this: if you think of someone that you follow on Instagram, but you haven't seen them post in a while, go look at their profile. I bet they've posted 5 times. You just never seen it, right? You can't control it at this point. And that's my problem with it. I understand the algorithm from the business side, right? We need to do whatever we have to do to keep their eyeballs inside of Instagram. Because that's the commodity, is their attention, right? So as a business person, I fully understand what they're doing. I'm not saying they're trying to change the youth of America or anything like that. They're just trying to keep their fucking attention. And I get it. But my problem is, as a consumer, you didn't give me the option. I like your product because I want to use it the way that I want to use it. Now you're telling me how I have to use this.
Right.
I don't like that. I just don't. And that's me. You know what I mean?
No, yeah,
but
it makes total sense.
Me and you, we come from a different era. Like, we understand what it means. I say to be outside, but like, you know what I'm saying when I say that, right? Like when we used to have to call people.
Oh yeah.
Hold on,
remember
bro.
phone numbers?
Hold on, fam. Let me call him on. Let me 3-way him in real quick. Let me beep him in. And like, we would have to do those things. Okay, well, what time are we all gonna go to the park? Because there's no texting. Fam, you just gotta be there, right? Like, and so like we come from that era, so I think we can adapt. So yeah, the algorithm fucked with us, so we adapt to it, right? Well, I get it. We'll still go here. Like, I know if I need to waste time, Instagram's the place I'm gonna go.
Oh yeah.
I know it.
I like that word adapt, because when you talk about kids seeing these, let's say, Instagram models and kind of feeling self-conscious about themselves, essentially that might what happened, and this is what does happen, because they think they're not good enough. How can they adapt to where they just look at that shit and just be like, okay, next, like whatever? But that's not happening, is it?
It's not happening at all. But I believe it's because they've never seen the real shit. We grew up, we seen the real shit, so we can tell what is. We can look at something because we're that perfect generation, right? Because this is just as damaging to old people. What young people are to Instagram, old people are to Facebook. They don't know what the fuck they're looking at, bro. They just assume it's all real. They just assume it's all fucking real.
That's true, man.
It's the same disease from just two different sides.
And then going back to your original comment where like you felt like you were kind of having this judgment mentality. When we get diarrhea of the mind from the whole fucking world in our eyes, what are we supposed to do? How do we weed out judgment and not have judgment? Because we just get flash flooded, especially all these platforms, but the whole people will just, bah, there you go. And it's like, well,
especially when the point of the platform is to judge.
Right.
That's the point of Instagram. If it wasn't the point, you would take the likes away.
Oh yeah, I like that. I'm all for taking the likes away. Let's just see what you got.
When they said that they were going to do it months ago over the summer, and they said they tried it in some of the, oh my God.
Yeah.
Take likes and comments away. No one can see it. Or leave likes, but make it to where only the person that posted the picture can see it. Leave the comment. You can comment, but no one can see your comments. Kind of like a story. Yes. When I post a story and you comment on my story, it comes to my inbox and we can go back and forth about it.
I like that.
Because like, if not, then yeah, your platform is built just to judge. And again, that sounds judgy. I still use Instagram and I will still continue to use Instagram. But like I said, when I go to it when I got time to waste. When I'm bored, it's the best way for me to waste time. But I start my morning with Twitter.
The news, essentially. You start the morning with news.
Bruh. It's the news. And I've been able to tailor my news to shit that I care about.
Right. Oh, man, that's just so interesting. And so the daily news, how many people open a newspaper these days?
Right.
But what is the difference? If somebody else has a biased opinion, let's say at the New York Times, and you're reading that, is that essentially the same as reading a fucking post or a tweet?
It's exactly the same thing.
But I guess with Twitter,
you're just reading it in long form.
Well, it's kind of like with Twitter, you kind of, hopefully, you're getting it from that point of view from that person, as opposed to like, yo, the editor went out there, deciphered it in his own way, and then delivered it out there.
See, on Twitter, it's the person. And so I think that Twitter also has an accountability factor to it, right?
Right.
As a journalist, so as some of my favorite sports journalists, they know they can't just come and spew out ridiculous shit, right?
Yeah.
Because the Twitter community as a whole and your following as a whole, they're gonna check you on it, right?
Right.
So you can't put out anything false because someone's gonna check. There's an accountability to that. So you hold a responsibility. Like, I think there's even people way more powerful than me with huge followings. I do believe that they think about what they tweet before they tweet it, simply because if you value your audience, you really don't want to offend them, right?
Oh yeah, you're getting attacked.
you might, it makes you more conscious of what you do say. not maybe change what you say, but maybe change how you say it so it can't be misunderstood. Right.
I'm sure both does happen where where you want people to like you. Like you want to be the popular kid in high school type thing. So you're going to say what is also appealing. But that's just, I mean, I don't think that's ever going to go away until we feel like we're the person who we want to be. But that's just growth. But let me ask you this ultimate question about this whole social media thing. What's one thing that these other platforms can learn that Twitter's doing right?
The one thing I think that they could learn is Twitter has depth, if that makes sense, right?
Expand.
I think Twitter believes its audience has a certain level of intelligence, right? Like it puts the bar here. I fully believe that Facebook and Instagram think about their audience as if they're robots and idiots. Like I really do. I really, not like it's sinister in it. I just think they treat their audience like children. And I think Twitter treats its users like adults. Like if I don't want to see anything that Donald Trump says, I can take him out of my news feed. And if I don't want to see anything anyone else says about Donald Trump, I can do an advanced search and block. So I can put in the 2 words, Donald Trump, and block it completely out of my news feed. So if you tweet something about Donald Trump, I won't even see it.
Right.
Because Twitter thinks I'm an adult and I should be able to get the information that I want. And they shouldn't tell me what information is important to me. It has a true trending factor in it, right? Trending is a big word. Mm-hmm. Every single morning, if I wake up before 5 a.m., the top 5 trending topics are K-pop shit. Why is that? It's because over there it's like 9 p.m. and their shows are on. You know what I mean? Right. And so America sleeps, so we're not talking about anything, but the Chinese are talking about their favorite K-pop bands. And I don't know what the fuck that shit be saying, but I realize it's 5 a.m. and this ain't for me.
Huh.
You can't. People that have big followings have been able to manipulate hilarious things into trending. If they were they do control it to a certain extent, but they allow adults to be adults, right?
Right.
And so like Donald Trump will come out and say something and like they'll take over it. Twitter can take over the hashtag and make it trend. So like when Donald Trump was talking about that alt-right group, the Proud Boys or whatever, right?
Right.
Gay Twitter took over the goddamn hashtag Proud Boys, and in anything you search with the Proud Boys, pulled up some gay shit. Right? Yeah. Like it's stupid and it's childish, but it's funny. But it's like they had the power to do that because Twitter's like, hey, this is how this works. This is the news, baby, and enough of them care about this, you know.
Right. Now, with that said, let me read you some stats right now of demographics. Okay. So there's 34% of Twitter users are females and 66% are males. And 22% of US adults use Twitters, and then 24% of all internet male users use Twitters. And so there are 262 million international Twitter users. Yes. And so if we break that down with the age group, if we use your reference of the K-pop, 44% of those are 18 to 24 years old. And that's a 2020 stat right there.
Yeah.
And that's got to say something too, with 31% being 25-30 and the rest just go over. So it's just like, so what happens is the younger demographics, well, naturally what happens when you age, bitch, the younger demographics are going to take over everything that we thought was ours, which is the snowball effect of life. Yes. And it's interesting to see what the younger generations comes up with and turns the ball towards or passes the ball. So
you said refresh the stat for me. 66% of Twitter is
males. Yes.
Now I don't know, but I wonder if they had the same introduction as me, sports.
Right.
I wonder if what brought them in the door was the same thing for me, because it was pitched as the news. And the super large worldwide reach of it doesn't surprise me. So outside of this country, there are a handful, and more than a handful of countries that control the news, right? The communist countries, that North Korea, places like that. China, you can't get to certain parts of the internet. North Korea, you can't get to any parts of the goddamn internet. But if you have a Twitter account, they can't. Your government can't filter your news. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So like if I live in North Korea and I do have internet, yes, they're not going to let me go to CNN.com or any of the American websites. But I can go through Twitter and I can find out information. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And I believe that that's the worldwide draw to Twitter, is that. It is interesting that there's so many men on Twitter, though.
Yeah. Maybe women are just more focused doing some outside shit.
or women are just more visually. Maybe
on
the
Instagram,
reward,
huh? Right? Because if they
no. Here it is. The reward is higher for women on Instagram. If a woman sends out a good tweet, she might get a couple responses. That might be cool. You're a smart woman. But if she put that same tweet and a caption and a picture that's banging, the reward is higher on Instagram for her.
Oh yeah, because we're primates. That's
Bingo.
Using the and now where women are mostly now, OnlyFans. How can I capitalize on this Instagram shit?
That was yes. And it's like I'll tell you one thing that I do love though. And as a creative, I fucking love this. And people gonna probably laugh and think it's weird to think I'm joking, because
OnlyFans, huh?
Bro, it is amazing. It is so beautiful, because that is everything that we do. If you're a podcaster, if you're a video creator, all you ever wanted to do was get paid for your work.
Ooh,
right?
Okay, I see it.
This OnlyFans is only a step away from Instagram, bro. That's all this is. It's a step away from private Snapchat. That's it. It's the next evolution of it, and it's beautiful. I fucking love it. I don't subscribe because I'm broke, but like, you know what I'm saying? Listen, every time I see people I know, and I've seen a few of them, they got an OnlyFans link, and it's like they're embarrassed to tell me. I say the same thing every time. Oh, that's dope. Because see, you're a creative. You might just be selling pussy. I don't know. But like, I don't look at these women like that. Because you're planning these pictures on Instagram. And you use those pictures to build up a following.
Yeah.
And that's no different than my favorite podcaster talking reckless to bring people in, to go viral, to bring, you know what I'm saying? It's
exactly. They said, fuck the lights in the comments. Give me that money.
OnlyFans, bruh.
That is the new hearts and that's hearts and comments right there. Is fucking just cash.
So let me give you what I think not the new trend is gonna be, but here's what I think is next.
What's that?
We've been public. Everything is so public. Exclusivity is coming. I am telling you, for one, I did it for technical reasons, but I'll share what I've done, right?
Right.
My personal Instagram, I changed to private. My engagement is 50 times what it was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I am getting friend requests to follow me more than I was getting follows when I was public. And these are from real people.
Interesting.
The interesting thing is my profile doesn't say anything about my location, which is Indianapolis, right? I've had 4 or 5 indie businesses follow my personal Instagram since I locked it down. Request to follow. I think it's something in the algorithm. When they request to follow you, it triggers something that shows you to them I
Right.
locked my Instagram. My stories went from getting 35, 40 views to 70, 75, 80 instantly.
Hmm.
Instantly. Now, again, for me, that was technical reasons, but I think people are going to soon figure out as we move into this paying creator society that, like, you don't have to put it all out there. That's what OnlyFans is. OnlyFans is private.
That makes sense.
People are paying to be a part of the private. Why do you think Patreon is massive? Patreon is beautiful. I me and you both like Flagrant 2, right?
Yeah.
The podcast Flagrant 2 with Andrew Schultz. And shit, it's not Aziz. What the fuck is his name? Little Indian kid. Damn. We might have to edit that out. I do not think all Indians are Aziz.
Yes. Oh, jeez.
Can't even think of his name.
Damn.
You can't even. But anyways, so there, I always find it interesting.
Akash, motherfucker.
Akash. You know you looked that shit up.
You know I looked it up real quick because I said it's not Aziz. How they gonna start with an A? Both of them.
Fam, I don't know. But anyways, so like I'll see on Insta or on Twitter that like Andrew will post a clip from the Patreon, right? His engagement is so big because everyone that pays to be a part of that Patreon, they feel like that's when their voice should be heard. They bond in his comments through that. Right? And it's almost like oh shit, the public don't know what we're talking about. Ha 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 ha. We're a part of this thing.
Right. Fear of missing out, though. Maybe that's it, but
you see where I was going, don't you? I was like, man, you got to let me tie this shit together sometime. Fam, let me throw the alley-oop.
Yo, last 2 minutes, I was holding my breath. I was like,
yeah. But that's where I'm going with it. It's the fear of missing out. And pretty soon they're going to see, oh shit. No. I don't want this to be public. If you know, you know.
With that said, I do think you're right. I think this is just an era where it's just like nobody knows what to do except just blast content out there and be like, this is it. That shit's going to die off. And I think you're right. It's just going to be like no privacy things. If you want this, you have to do the next step. You have to click follow to get approval, or you have to sign up for this to see this because it's worth it. Because it's like
nothing else. I need to know you're here for the right reasons.
Boom, exactly. Because I'm like, yo, if you go to Amsterdam, you see fucking, the red light special shit everywhere. You're gonna keep walking because you see it through the windows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you go to a place that's a boarded up warehouse that says this is the spot, pay $5 to get in,
you're going.
Because
you don't want to miss that.
Yeah, you have no clue.
Yeah. And it seems like, definitely, that's it. It's just the fear of missing out. That's what it is. That's crazy.
I'm going on my profile. I'll make my profile private right now.
Do it and just pay attention to the numbers. To the numbers. Because I was blown away. I figured it would have some kind of effect on it, but like I've also started to see posts from friends I haven't seen posts from in forever.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh shit, Kayla got married? Oh, she posted 30 pictures leading up to the wedding. Where have I been? Right?
Right.
And it's just like they started showing me my friends again. And it's like, okay. I'm wondering if they don't have control. If the algorithm doesn't have as much control if my profile is locked.
Right, that's true.
The data that it's reading and sending out, maybe it alters what that data can be. I don't know how this shit works, but you know what I mean? Like it could make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I closed that shit off, I was like, man, they've been playing us.
It makes sense, but even if you follow like business savvy people or high level entrepreneurs, they say wherever the crowd's going, do the fucking opposite. And that's
Yeah.
kind of almost where the times is right now.
Yeah.
Well, 'cause
Absolutely.
I definitely do think this is the year of the entrepreneur, though. You know, whether it's
Mhm.
COVID, whether it's some fucking just, it's mostly it's COVID, honestly. Because I used to have this philosophy as a human being. I used to think it's a right that we should not have to work 9 to 5s and be bred into this workforce thing as a human being. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what it does for us when our time's being spent like this. If you do the math, you know, you fucking lose 30 years of your life because you work at a 9 to 5 job to your fucking, I don't know, 40, 50 or whatever it is. And it's just like, we needed that. So I almost like to think I manifested slightly some weird shit that was like, okay, here it is. You get this
Yeah.
opportunity to be your creative self as a human being. What are you going to do with it when you are essentially alone with your own brain and you don't have any requirements to leave the house? What will you do now? And you're not 8 years old, 10 years old, where you fucking just can do whatever. You have responsibilities, bills to pay. What do you do? And I love that ... afterwards because it's yours to fill in. But once you fill it in, I love it because it's liberating. I think you should. I think it's a necessity. It's a given human experience. I think we should all be enveloped in. And it's sad that COVID had to do this to us, but the blessing in disguise, yo.
Now, do you think that? So when we talk about like entrepreneurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you I understand this circumstances kind of push people towards doing what it is that we do?
Right.
Do you think that you have to be a little crazy already to do this? Not like, okay, so let's take pandemic out of it, right? Let's go
Okay.
back to just its mindset of an entrepreneur, right?
Okay.
Because your people that you meet and you explain to them what you do, or they find you through what you do or anything, they instantly think you're a what? Genius.
Mm-hmm.
They always do. I come across it all. Wait, you own this? You did that? Oh,
Right.
okay. Well, what about this? What about, like, they'll talk to you like you're a genius, but like, I feel like I'm crazy. And here's why I say I feel like I'm crazy, right? I would much rather try 7 or 8 different things that make me a little bit of money that might equal what you make at your job, right? So I've got 7 things that none of them have me rich, right?
Mm-hmm.
I make about what I make an average living.
Mm-hmm.
I live with the odds that in a year, I could be filthy fucking rich, or I could be piss poor broke, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any other way to live. I just don't. It's the idea of I have a 9 to 5 working for someone that has already set my cap, like the highest I can be, is suffocating to me. But it's liberating to others. Does that make sense? Like them getting the job that they want is liberating to them. And to me, I'm just like, ooh, that's the scariest shit in the world, nigga. Like,
Yeah. Well, tell us about your last experience. So what's the last job you had, and was that the wake-up call for you?
the last job I had was at a factory. And yes, it was the wake-up call. It wasn't the wake-up call for me. I just did it because fear. Like it was in the middle of the first time that I jumped out the window, as in like I'm gonna be doing my own thing from now on.
Right.
But the job before that was the one that defined who I am now at the gym. And so I was doing something I still enjoy doing, but at the time I already had it in me to be trying other things, right? And at the time I was trying to do the online thing, and you were a part of my life during this, so you know, but I'm just going to share this with everyone else. Like I've tried to almost do everything you can do online, right? Affiliate marketing, this and that. And to me, I'm not romantic about how I make $1. $1 is just $1 to me. And if you tell me we can get 10 of them by doing this, well, I'm saying, well, my nigga, let's do this. I don't care that you don't want to do it. We can make $1, you know? So I was doing a job and I was working for other people, and it was just a job. And then that family made a family decision to leave, and the job was just over. I didn't lose the job. I understand if you lose a job, you get fired or whatever, you quit. I I did not. That showed me that any job I have, I am at the complete mercy of someone else.
Right.
Because I did the right things. And they just decided to move back to California and close the business that I worked for. And that was just it. It didn't matter how my bills were going to get paid or not. And so that led me to literally, I had one paycheck left and rent due in 3 weeks. I was going to be able to pay my rent at the time, but not for that next month. It was just over, right? And they were like, maybe you can file for unemployment. That shit didn't work out. And that shit takes forever, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what do I know how to do? And what can I do? Literally, I wasn't able to find the problem with finding another job was we know it takes a week to find the job, a week to get the job, and then 2 more weeks to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that kind of time. I literally didn't have that time.
Yep.
I said, what I got? I got a vacuum. I got a broom. What do I know how to do? I know how to put websites together. All right, bet. I'm going to say I have a cleaning company, right? Because it's cheap and I can go get the stuff to clean a house or clean whatever, and I can get paid that day. I just did it. I came up with a name. I put together a little website on the computer at the last job I had. I don't know. I started posting on Facebook. I built a Facebook page for the business. And 4 days after that, the phone rang. And it was this, I'll never forget it either. It was this wind farm, right? They do alternative energy, the wind farm thing. So they had me come out there to this warehouse. Mind you, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing, right?
Right.
I don't know if I'm supposed to charge them $10 or $10,000. I'm just like, oh, yeah, this is EcoClean. Of course, that's what I do. So I go out there and I'm walking through with the lady. I know people. I don't really know the business. So as a person, I'm like, hey, what is it? Why did you call me? Like, let's get down to what it actually is that they're not giving you that you need. Like, what are your spots that, like, she's like, honestly, they just don't consistently take the trash out of every trash can. Oh, I can definitely do that. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, what are they charging you to do that? And she tells me, and I'm just like, I gotta be honest. I'm more expensive than that. But I know that from marketing and business, right? I have already identified your pain point. And I've already convinced you that I can fix it. Why? I made it seem like it wasn't a big deal. Oh, don't worry about that. And she's like, okay, well, how much? And then again, with the exclusivity, I was like, it's going to be high, but we don't really lower our price. I never claimed to be the cheapest in town. Instantly, I walked out of there with an $800 a week cleaning contract that I had to clean for 2 days a week, bruh.
Yeah.
I was making more money doing that 2 days, less time, way more money. And I said, honestly, I can't go back.
It does not sound that too crazy to me, because if she's paying somebody else X amount of dollars to not take out the trash,
what you gonna pay me to do?
She might as well pay you to take out the motherfucker. Let's go. So you found a fucking need and you filled it, and you're like, I'm gonna do the job and do it.
I'm EcoClean. Just making shit up.
Let them know.
I'm just making shit up.
Check out EcoClean of Indianapolis if you got the time.
But now, fast forward to now, we the best in the business. Mm-hmm. For real. Like for real. And I love that. So like people, and again, like people find jobs liberating. Oh my God. They find security in that. It's suffocating to me. And so I fear that the pandemic is going to empower people to do some things that ain't really them, if that makes sense, right? They're going to be in the need of getting money like I was. The pandemic has forced some people to figure out how the fuck you're going to pay your rent, bro. Mm-hmm. If they run towards this entrepreneur shit and they're not built for it, what happens? Or is it the circumstance that makes the person? Or does the person have to kind of have that thing built up in them already? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't, and it's not there's a right answer. I don't know. It's just, that's what I think about. It's just like, I don't know. And I see a lot of it, like friends that are trying to start their own little things. And I'm like, no, that's cool. But like, I don't think you're built for this. And that's no disrespect, but like, maybe this ain't for everybody. Maybe me and you have a different little gene in us, right?
Right.
That is just like,
Now, I have a slightly different perspective, because I feel like if you can work your years at a 9-to-5 job learning a certain trade, all you have to think about is how to use that trade by yourself or with your own team. So you have certain skills in whatever it is, especially since we talked about before this podcast about how customer service is fucking taking over the world because we're all going to be at home and you have to be ample at that. I think most jobs have some sort of customer service. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's the hardest part, is just learning how to be essentially in front of people. How do people act? How can I react to them? And how do I serve people better? Because you don't get money out of trees. You got to get money from somebody else. How do you get money from somebody else? You got to have customers. How do you get customers? Bitch, you got to have customer service. And so I do think it's kind of like everyone has it. I just think it's a divide between comfortability and fucking something else. It's almost like, because for years I've always felt I didn't want to work at a job. I thought it was laziness. I used to tell my godparents I have this disease called laziness, and I cannot control it. I feel it inside of me. I don't know what it is. I just don't know. I remember like looking at my cat chilling in the sun when I was going to high school. I was like, I want to do that. Why do I gotta go to this fucking school from 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon? And then after that, all of a sudden you get a job. Why do I have to go to this job from 9 to 5? What's happening with my life? Can I hit pause? Can I break this shit? It's like, okay. When I paused and break it, it was like, okay, wow, there's shit that needs to be paid for. Then you get a job, you slowly think about it. It's like, whoa, this is what they're doing. This is all about how they're making money, just exchanging hands. How can I do that separately?
That's all it is too.
I think everyone has that innate ability. Once they see that, I guess they just have to feel just slightly uncomfortable. I think people love the paycheck game because it's guaranteed.
There are people that still think of me as lazy. People that I love and that love me. I know that. They don't understand. And that's again why I went into the questions of like, is it us that's just different? Because like, I have ran I'm not rich or nothing, but like, I hold my own weight in my business for going on 4 years now.
Oh yeah. Congrats.
My mother still sends me job openings.
Right.
Like in her mind, she's not doing it from a place of a negative place. But it's almost like she doesn't get the fact that, what are you talking about right now?
And that's kind of a big problem.
I don't just make a living. I pay other people.
Yeah, mom, you want a job? I got you.
Like, what are you doing? And it's because I know they still see like, oh, he just doesn't want to get a job. No, I don't.
But that's that's the interesting era back, and we're kind of like your kids they're going to solve all of this shit and know how to talk about this so much better than we are, because right now we have to steer away from adults who kind of ruled our lives in a sense. Hey, this is what we had to do, and we're like, no, now we have options. There's we can plug some shit in the laptop and through the ether fucking connect and hear it. We don't even need a phone and we talking. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
The game's changed.
It's just different. It's different.
It's just different. It's just being acceptance of that difference and being the open-mindedness to that future. And because once you are, then you can roll with the punches better, and then you're going.
So the room that I am recording currently in, right? Now, luckily, I have a partner that she rolls with whatever the fuck I say. Like, I could say, hey, you know what? I think the next thing I want to do is build a rocket and go to the moon. And she's going to be like, that sounds crazy. So how are you gonna get started? Like, what are you gonna do first? Like, but it's possible to her, right? So she just kind of lets me, I know she didn't fully understand what I meant when I said that other bedroom, let's take all the stuff out, right? Let's get a new carpet. Let's get a futon. I need to put this soundproofing up. Let's make it set up like this little studio for my podcast. Like, okay, you're spending money. It's an expensive mic. You need a new computer. Okay. Like, she just rolls with it. Now, we've had visitors at the house that I'm quite sure was probably like, why did he waste money on that stuff? Right? Like, they probably see the shit as he just spends like money. This is probably a joke to them. And I understand that, right? But as who I am, when I am doing this, I'm not working. This is what I do for fun. This is who I am. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, I even had this conversation with you. Like, what's that thing that I would do? I've lost more money in podcasting than I've ever made. I'm never gonna stop. I love it, right? And so there's gonna hit that point where the podcasting and the creation of just being a creator is gonna handle that other weird side of having to pay bills and things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then people are innately gonna be like, oh man, you're so lucky. You get to do podcasts for a living. And I'm like, remember when I was changing my back room and you was looking at me crazy? Because you was like, what do you mean you're gonna turn your back room into a, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, we have the power to see the vision before it's a thing.
Right. And then, but naturally, knowing you for so long, we had that innate ability that we just realized we were talking for hours on the phone and about some interesting shit. So I tell everyone, know what you like, know what you don't like. Yeah.
This podcast here is barely a podcast. This is the most natural thing. And over time, I think people are going to realize just how effortless this really is. Like, oh shit, I'm really just getting to be in on their phone conversations.
Oh, and that's it, is it. That is beautiful right there. Being on somebody else's phone's conversation.
Because this is what we've been doing. This is so natural. This is real.
Yeah.
And the beauty is we have different upbringings, different backgrounds. We have different thoughts about things now. And we don't always agree.
Yeah.
We got into it in New York. We recently took a trip to New York together. Like, think about that.
Yeah. Like, Times Square for the weekend.
We're in fucking Midtown Manhattan arguing on the street. But like, think about this. Like, and it's like, I think that's why I'm so appreciative of kind of like doing this with you, because we've been talking about it for a couple years now. And I'm just telling you, like, no, like, this is a real thing. And I think a lot of things out there ain't real right now. There is a money grab in the podcast industry. You're not as into it as I am, right? But like, I am seeing things, and I am telling you, podcasts are eventually going to try to be like the fucking mixtape rap game.
We're going to turn on the TV, and I believe it's going to be different podcast channels rather than regular fucking channels.
Everywhere. But let me tell you, quality always sells, and it sells at a premium rate. And it ain't that it's the money. It ain't that it sells like it's a higher price. It's just, you can tell when something is meant for the people and something is coming from a place of good, right? And that's why I'm so excited about this one. Because like, I know we're coming. I've known you for, what are we going on? 15 years?
What, since 2004, 2003? 2003.
Maybe 2002, because remember when I left and went back to Kentucky? Yep. We still can't stay in contact, bro. And so it's like, we've got this many years. I know you know me, and we don't agree on everything, but we've been having these conversations for 10 years.
What's so interesting, you kind of answered this before, the whole supply and demand when it comes to podcasting. What is so intriguing about it? Like, you're more into it than I am. So from my aspect, my answer would be, if nonetheless, I would, since I need to keep a journal, but I don't, and I would love to, but I'm
Yes.
using this as my visual voice journal. So when I'm later on in life, to learn to listen to my voice, what did I talk about? What was my mindset at? I don't even know if I want it for growth purposes. I just want it to be like, wow, that moment in life was real. It
Yes.
happened in this past at this certain date and time. Because as a human being, I get lost of track of time. You blink and all of a sudden you're 30 years old.
Yes, sir.
And so I just like that timestamp to that's ever living. You know, you put this shit into the cloud, you in the cloud, baby.
That's the beauty of the cloud.
That is it. And that's why
Can't
we
nothing
having
touch
these
it.
conversations in the cloud, baby. Cloud conversations. Let's go.
Cloud conversations, man. It's and the cloud is about security too.
Yeah.
So like we had a conversation once and I told you, you said, what do you want this to be? And I was like, hey, I want this to be a safe place to have dangerous conversations. And when you think about what clouds are and just kind of in proximity of where they're at, or you think from a standpoint of doing business, it's just above all the rest of the bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just conversation. Take it for what you will.
And that is it.
That's it. I think we should wrap up episode 1.
Sounds
And-
beautiful. Well, my name's
Yeah,
Lauriano
love it.
Mercado. You can call me Coco. Check out my
Listen.
website at iselfreflect.com. The first t-shirt you wear for yourself. Grab yourself a mirror image tee for self-empowerment, baby.
You guys know where to find me, man. Find me on Twitter, actually, at Just a Kid from KY on Twitter. I also do, as I was saying earlier, other podcasts. If you're into baseball, Party in Pinstripes. If you're into basketball, it's the NBA Culture Podcast. I appreciate you guys listening. Oh, real quick. So if you're listening on Apple Podcast, go ahead and subscribe. Also leave us a review because that helps other people find us. Remember what we said about the algorithm stuff. So that's important. If you're on Spotify, hit follow. And then we'll be on your front page every time that there is a new episode. Now with Apple Podcasts, it's going to alert you when we have a new episode. As of right now, this thing is free flowing, baby. So we don't know when the schedule is going to be, but it'll start to regular itself out over time. Anything else? Be on the lookout for the YouTube coming soon, and that's about it. That's all I got. You good?
Yeah. Well, I would say just if you gotta leave a comment, if you can, on some form of platform, I'd love to hear what you gotta say, because
Absolutely.
these cloud conversations are about all of us, and we're just using, we're all self-reflections of each other, bouncing off ideas. We all the same person and one vision, baby. We're just trying to get to know what the fuck this is, what it's about, but just let's leave our message out there. And if you need to hear yours, have a message that you need to get heard, let us know. We'll plan it out. Perhaps you'll be on here one day talking to us. Let's mind jam. But yeah, much props.
All right, Cloud Conversations, and we out.